In a world overrun by neocon warmongers, and with the mass media in the pockets of the cabal elite, there remains one bastion of truth amidst the confusion. One beacon of light shining through the murky fog of spin and Islamophobic propaganda. That's right, it's the MP Radio Security Council, the final frontier in the fight for freedom and fairness. I give you the Security Council.
أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني سائر في طريق الحق.
Middle Path Radio, your number one online Islamic talk station.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Security Council. You're listening to Middle Path Radio, and I'm your host for tonight's program. My name is Ahmed, and with me in the studio is permanent member Robert the Beast Mugabe, and with him brings his military commander who doesn't say much but acts quite viciously.
Okay, how come you don't call us by names, bro? Brother Ahmed, yeah?
Robert the Beast, welcome to the program.
I will only speak if you call me by my name, Zain. That's
Mr. Mugabe, I appreciate the humbleness and your newfound Arabic culture, but this is the Security Council, and I see an empty seat tonight at the panel, and that's a very worrying matter for all of us. I know we have, mashallah, one of your right-hand men, your military official, but we'll come to him later. Where is Desmond Two Guns Tutu tonight? Maybe we can get him on the phone.
Oh,
Desmond, if you're listening, Desmond,
we're gonna call you.
That's right. You need to be on call, mate, because we are gonna have to hear from you directly tonight. So Desmond Two Guns is obviously away on some sort of tutu business as usual. He's normally doing all sorts of humanitarian work, NGO kind of work, promoting the cause of Palestine. As we know, Desmond Tutu is very much a huge fan of Palestine, and he likens the state of the Palestinians to that of apartheid, or that of the people of Africa during apartheid. And for that reason, we understand that Desmond is, as we said, very busy at work, literally. And in fact, we hear from him via written format that he is actually busy at work doing the work of the permanent members. So, Mr. Mugabe, what other kind of agendas have we got on the table tonight?
If you call me Zain, yeah, it'll be better.
You just want to be that music artist. What's that brother's name? Zayn Beaker. Yeah, come on. I mean, seriously, you don't look like him. You definitely don't sound like him. So
who's Zayn Beaker?
Oh, you meant Mahir Zain. Sorry, I got the wrong guy. I meant the wrong guy. You wanted to be Mahir Zain.
Genuinely, who's Mahir Zain?
Don't give me that rubbish, bruv. You got a poster of him on your bedroom.
How do you know about my bedroom? Have you been spying like the Channel 4 spies?
You know the Nigerian Secret Service is alive and well, and we have got some bugs on the wall.
Good luck, Jonathan Django, isn't it?
Good luck, Django, Jonathan.
Same to same, yeah.
That's with the D, which is silent. So, agendas for tonight, please. We got a very quick show.
Quick agendas, yeah.
That's it.
The first agenda, Channel 4, HIJAB Spy, in regards to yesterday's program, aired at 9 o'clock.
We're going to talk about that tonight.
Yep, we got that.
What's
the Sun's famous front page.
Indeed. A poll or a survey.
Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday?
I think it was yesterday.
It was yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah. And then you got Salah for Paris. Oh, was it Salah? Sorry, Pray for Paris.
Pray for Paris. #Pray for Paris. Are you praying for Paris? You let us know on 07477 080-248. That's 07477 080-248. If you want to give a prayer message on our program, then do call in. We most certainly won't be giving you any airtime.
Hang on. What?
We'll be cancelling your
what do you
call
mean by
directly.
pray, bro? What are you saying, pray?
Hold on. That's an agenda. We're going to come to that right now, buddy. We're going to come to that.
I have to make wudu though.
I know, Mr. Mugabe, you are ready to lead the funeral prayer for the
Muslims.
all the dead people
absolutely,
who were killed
bro. Why
in
not?
Paris.
Why not?
You are now canvassing and lobbying all the mosques to hold a collective, what's it called?
Why not?
Salatul Janaza fil whatever. Ghaib. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to your thoughts on that. So, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, are you praying for Paris? Did you pray for Paris? Should we be praying for Paris? What's your opinion? However far out your opinions are, this is the Security Council, and this is the place where there is no censorship. You come here and you say what you want to say. Okay, so that's 07477 080-248.
What's the Twitter account?
Oh, the Twitter account is obviously at Middle Path Radio. One word, at Middle Path Radio. And go check out our YouTube channel. These recordings, tonight's program as well, will be posted and published on YouTube. So you can go and check out this program and, of course, all the other programs on Middle Path Radio.
We will be getting our special guest's opinion on some
Mr.
of these
Green
issues.
Beret, I was going to call it Mr. Green Beret. I mean, he's just sitting there looking very, what's the word? Very smug with his ironed, uniform and all the shiny badges on his shoulder and breast pocket. I mean, is there a red poppy on his chest right now? No, it's not red. It's not a red poppy. Looks more like a blood stain from a gunshot wound from the Second World War. No problem.
We're coming to you in a bit. Right, let's. Do you want to move on swiftly to the first agenda?
First agenda. We are going to go on break in about 5-7 minutes. We did say half an hour.
Well, let's introduce the first agenda anyway.
First agenda was, of course, Channel 4's program. In fact, I didn't really care to remember the name of the program. I watched the whole thing. Something about British women supporting ISIS. I don't even know if it was a bit dispatch. It was a Channel 4 program. Yeah. British women who support ISIS, something like that.
Right.
That's basically what it was called. So this was quite a very offensive program in my mind, because Channel 4, and I'm going to get straight into the thing or make the main point because we don't have time tonight.
Go for it.
On this issue, I'm going to start with the conclusion. The conclusion is Channel 4 should be held responsible for Islamophobic attacks on women that are going to be happening from yesterday onwards. Why do I say that? It's because these kinds of programs actually lead to further hatred against Muslim women and the minorities in general and the Muslim community in general. But specifically, we know that Islamophobic attacks, acts of violence, assaults, and other brutality, the ones who bear the brunt of these attacks are our sisters, the Muslim women. And a program like that was flagrantly inflammatory and
hold on.
It's tantamount to incitement to hatred and violence.
Hold on, I agree to an extent.
Don't say hold on.
Let's say this.
I'm telling you how it is.
If these if Channel 4 went to these circles and went to these programs and seen these sisters speak up and in support of ISIS, why not?
Okay, it's a good question, but not really that good. I think you're playing the devil's advocate.
No, I'm not. I'm being straight with you.
But honestly speaking, sure, I'm not suggesting, and I'm not going to really explain this because I think most people know that not every single view of the sisters who were, sharing their views really in private, closed circles. Not everybody would agree with everything they said, especially the areas of their opinion where it may fall foul of the British law, which is showing support, expressing support for proscribed terrorist groups, okay, or calling for violence. I don't know if they did that, but they definitely did show support for a proscribed terrorist organization, okay. And
my point is this mainstream?
So, I mean, you're more than welcome to make your own point on that. I know you wanted to say this, but the answer to that is, of course not. These sisters aren't representative of the entire Muslim community.
So this is my point, though.
In fact, to continue on your question, In fact, it is well known in the Muslim community, and in fact, now those who are following, so-called counterterrorism affairs, it is well known that they are from a particular organization that is very small group. To be fair, they're within their right to have their opinion, but they are not a influential organization, especially when it comes to that view, supporting ISIS. In fact, many hardliners, many orthodox conservative Muslims who would be deemed also by mainstream media as extremists, even these Muslims, and I object to that description of these Muslims, by the way, but even these Muslims would distance themselves from the group ISIS. Not because they're opposed to the idea of caliphate, because as I said, not everything the sisters were saying was wrong. Okay, they're opposed to the group themselves and their methods and their policies.
That's an excellent point, and you said it really well. I mean, my point was more to the fact that Channel 4 sourced out a group of people that would say things like that. Even
they would say these things.
They knew they
would be the only ones to say those things.
Exactly.
They knew this group of women were not representative of the views in the Muslim community, and they shun a telescope and a microscope, together at the same time, and amplified that. They really magnified this.
Absolutely.
And, the ordinary, white person, ordinary racist out there is thinking, see, I told you, it's not just the men that we got to look out for, it's them women as well. They're all probably hiding bombs under their burqas.
These racists, in the past year, recently, just last, if you look at last year, who were they attacking anyway?
They were always attacking Muslim
the vulnerable
sisters anyway.
The vulnerable,
That's
the women.
Right. So what we're saying is there are racists already thick and thin in society today, and they don't need further agitation by Channel 4.
Absolutely.
By shining this magnifying glass on a tiny group of individuals, literally people whom you can count on your fingers. Okay, so that's and I really thank you for bringing that angle to that program, because a lot of people would have watched that and thought, oh my God, how could these sisters be saying these things? I already made it clear we disagree with some of those views, but and again I say some of those views because, say for example, rejecting democracy on a what's the word I'm looking for, on a personal religious Islamic creed point of view, that's actually a requirement, an Islamic requirement. I think even the worst of in our community, or some who have openly left the community, would admit, no, that's actually an Islamic requirement. Okay, there are democratic processes that are found in Islamic methods from history. Okay, before democracy was even around, but we're talking about democracy, the very foundation, the basis, the ideology itself, the principles of what democracy actually stands for. Those things actually all Muslims, and I say this confidently, every Muslim who knows his religion, that's the caveat, the qualification there, that they all reject on the fundamental level. They all reject it. Okay, and that's another subject to be had. That's not really the scope of tonight's program. The main thing that I want to focus on, as you said, they deliberately shine a light on a tiny minority from the community whom have espoused some support for ISIS, okay, which we already have said is not representative of anybody in the community, even from amongst the hardliners. They do not support ISIS, okay, knowingly doing so of the consequences that this could have. This program will have reached hundreds of thousands of people's homes, millions, and who'll be watching this and thinking, that's it, there are Muslim girls out there who we have been beating up. This is the justification. All Muslim girls think like this. We need to go out on the streets and do some justice, some street justice. The police are too soft on them. Let's go and beat up some Muslim girls today. That's exactly what is already happening, and it's only going to get worse because of programs like Channel 4.
Do you think if this happens that Channel 4 has some blood in their hands?
Definitely. Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. This is nothing new. This is how they did treat the Jews during the Nazi era in Germany. This was the propaganda that they were, it was Goebbels and his men who was using radio, billboards, and all sorts of other mediums. Plural, sorry, is media, excuse me. All right, films and whatnot, to actually demonize the Jews blame them for so and so, make them look like nasty monsters, aliens and whatnot. And then you had people taking acts of violence taking place against Jews. The climate and the environment was right to attack Jews. I know we said we're going to go to a break a long time ago, but you know, in this program we don't do breaks anymore. You know, when we get fired up like this, Mr. What is this? What is his rank exactly? This military official you've got here.
He's you commander in chief.
On Call of Duty, is it, or is it Medal of Honor? Which one is it? Battlefield 4, Halo 5? Which?
No. Come on, bro, speak up now. Sir, come on, sir.
He's got his hands on his what is that? That's like a Luger, kind of like very old 1950s revolver in his pocket.
Just make sure you don't point that thing at me.
Yeah, I'm sure it's still. Are you sure it's still operational? Actually, that looks quite rusty.
Can we just get your view on this? Just like briefly, anything?
So you approve basically of the airing of this program? You won't deny it then? I see zero sign of any denial. That means you obviously approve. You will not unequivocally condemn this program?
He's got a poker face on, bro. I can't really tell what's happening.
Okay, so that means we need to bring out the electrocution equipment.
Waterboarding.
He's been trained very hard.
Can you get that glass of water, please, Mr. Producer?
Right, so let's go for a very quick break. I think we've made the message very clear. These kind of programs, they lead to even more Islamophobia, especially against sisters.
Absolutely.
And secondly, they deliberately conflate, exaggerated certain views that only a tiny minority of people hold.
There's a pattern being seen. I mean, we've been seeing it for a while, but it's now so blatant, so obvious.
It was
done by the media. I mean, there's an agenda you can see. Yeah. Time and time again that you see these media, these programs coming up, or these newspaper articles that are coming up, all deliberately inciting these Islamophobic, highly
irresponsible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as you said, they do.
I mean, we're going to come with another one that's coming up very soon about the sun.
Yeah.
But I mean,
so it's related to this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we okay to go on a quick break, Mr. Producer? All right, we'll catch you guys, brothers and sisters, inshallah, straight after this break. Assalamu alaikum. Walaikum and welcome back to the Security Council. You are listening to Middle Path Radio, and I'm your host for tonight. That's right. Good luck, Django, Jonathan, and with me in my wing we've got Robert the Beast Mugabe, who's brought along with him his own wingman, his right hand man, his right hand, quite literally. Apparently, I've been hearing all sorts of legendary stories from the good old war days. So if any of you kids want to fall asleep now, I can let me ask this very military looking gentleman to share with us one of those heroic moments in history.
In my days. He's a strong silent type.
I know. He's but on the battlefield, he's quite a different character, I've heard.
The beast comes out.
That's right. The beast is unleashed. So we covered one of the main agendas for tonight.
Yep.
Mr. Robert the Beast Mugabe. And you made some excellent points, I have to say. Not much like you, not very characteristic of you. You're the hired muscle for
Thanks, bro.
You're really the hired muscle for the permanent
You
members.
know what?
But
I've had enough. I'm off.
All right, come back. Okay, listen. Even the hired muscle has got hired muscles here today. So something strange is going on. Anyways, we talked about the Channel 4 program, British women who support ISIS or something like that, and we summarized that before the break. So if you missed that, brothers and sisters, go listen to the rest of the show or the past moments of the show on YouTube as soon as it's uploaded. Okay, that means you go subscribe to our YouTube channel, inshallah, and you don't just get this show, you'll get all the other good shows that are taking place on Middle Path Radio, including a number of very good Islamic lectures, namely the Tafsir program that coming out of the, was it Redbridge Islamic Center? Thank you, Mr. Producer. So, and there's of course also the other Straight Talk program, whom I take a great deal of interest in. Excellent topics being covered on that program as well. But this is the Security Council, of course, untouchable. So we normally do Django of the Week as well. Okay, so if you've got any ideas or any nominations that you'd like to put forward to the permanent members of the Security Council tonight, okay, then do text or call 07477 080 248. That's 07477 080 248. Or you can tweet at Middle Path Radio to forward your suggestions and nominations for Django of the Week. That's Django with a J, no D at the beginning. You wanted to say something, Mr. Commander? It's okay. Don't be shy.
Oh, he's getting a bit agitated. We just need to carry on, actually, I think.
Okay, right, all right. One of the sensitive types,
Yeah.
I see. Seen too much war. It's
Strong and silent,
PSD.
nah.
What do they call it? Post-traumatic stress disorder. No problem, we understand. Not seen much of the real life, but because of heroes like him, we enjoy the freedoms
He can't
enjoy today.
He can't sleep without gunshots at the back.
Those are his lullabies
That's
that put
it.
him to sleep. Those are the melodies that really bring peace to his heart and mind. Yes, what a hero! You know,
What a hero.
Hollywood couldn't think of this guy. You know?
Arnold Schwarzenegger, eat your heart out.
Rambo, you ain't got nothing on this guy. So, oh my goodness. Anyway, so the agendas, the serious stuff, which we always like to add a little bit of humor to. The Sun. The Sun was running a front page story, I believe yesterday or from the day before, and it said something like 1 in 5 British Muslims sympathize with jihadists. I think
1 in
something like
5 Muslims sympathize for jihadis. Sympathize for
Jazakallah
jihadis.
khair. You want the exact quote there, yeah?
Yeah.
Read that again for me, please.
1 in 5 Brit Muslims sympathy for jihadis. Sorry.
So this, of course, actually had a huge reaction to this headline. MashaAllah, Muslims and non-Muslims alike had actually, embarked on a
by the way,
social media campaign.
In their just to clarify, when they mean jihadis, they're actually referring to ISIS specifically.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's unfortunately what most people think of.
They actually mentioned that even in the surveys, not jihadis per se, it's ISIS.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the problem here is, again, I'm going to come with the first point. I'm going to start with a conclusion. Again, this is another case of British media, right? British newspapers, if the Sun can be ever referred to as a newspaper. It's another case of the media deliberately stoking the flames of hatred and increasing community tensions, okay, and literally, again, inciting people to hate Muslims. This story can only have one result, one consequence, and that is that non-Muslims and people who are not Muslim will be looking at this and thinking, see, I told you there's so many of them. How many Muslims are there? 1 in 5. That's a hell of a lot of Muslims out there who support jihadis and if ISIS, and if they had the chance, they'd have pulled the trigger themselves. That's basically the kind of attitude that this kind of newspaper actually promotes and foments, which leads ultimately to further violence against minorities, against Muslims, and a minority within a minority, the female Muslims who outwardly observe their religion by wearing garments of their religion. Okay, the Muslim sisters. So this is really, that's my first point on that. There's a couple more things that should be added to that. Of course, I referred to a social media campaign that people of all walks of life, embarked upon, and I think there was a petition that was
there was a petition going around. I've seen that. Yeah,
Adam Pugh or something like that. His name was
Something like that,
Pughe or Pugh. He set up a petition, and I think within 2 days, it's got 20,000 signatures already.
20,000?
20,000 signatures already. So if you brothers and sisters haven't signed this petition yet, you need to go out there and search for it online. Just write Adam, the Sun, Google that. And it's basically asking for the Sun to apologize for this headline. And not only that, the campaign was a little bit more comprehensive. It wasn't just a petition. And again, there wasn't any particular one individual centrally leading. There was no central thing on this. It was just individuals collectively just going and acting on their principles. So a lot of other people, what they were doing was asking the sponsors of the Sun, which is where they make a lot of their money from, to do what? To actually distance themselves and withdraw their funding, sponsorship money, and their advertisements from the Sun, namely companies like Morrison's, Specsavers, and Talk, I believe, were the main three who were asked by many to distance themselves. I think only Morrison's gave a tweet reply stating that they don't have any control over what the Sun actually prints. However, everybody in response to that tweet of theirs, who they were the only ones who had the decency to actually give a tweet in the first reply, but people have said that you do have the control over who you advertise with and who you give your money to, and if you find a particular business model to be unethical, tantamount on inciting hatred, then you should really withdraw your support and your financial contribution to these types of organizations. Okay, now the Sun is a huge newspaper, huge in the sense that it's extremely popular. Would you believe it? When I was a young person, in school, and whether it was if it was as young as primary school age, teachers taught us that these are called tabloid newspapers. I mean, they carry rubbish in them. There's not really any news in them.
Garbage.
It's garbage, basically. So I thought, most people like me listen to the teachers and they think, don't read that trash. Go find something really, intellectually stimulating. All right. So
not that you were intellectual.
Absolutely, I was I was the father of intellectualism in the primary school. So oftentimes my teacher would switch seats with me, but enough of my biography. Go buy the book instead. You were
the bullied child, yeah.
I was the what? The
bullet child.
I was the bullet, yes, but not the bullied child. No, the bullet did most of the bullying, but not that we approve at neither.
And we're not laughing at any children who got bullied.
That is not even funny, man. That is not funny.
I'm
we apologize to any of you who have been bullied.
I'm being straight with you. Why are you laughing for? I'm being straight. Why are you
Disclaimer,
making me laugh?
ladies and gentlemen. So, what I was saying though was,
I was gonna have to cut you in. I did just see the what's it called?
Your military general.
Your military general's laugh as well. So first time I've seen him smile since I've known him, I think.
Best advice: fight back. Is what he was saying. So this seems to be his only response.
Pistols ready. Pistols ready. Can we change the subject? I think he's getting agitated again.
Okay, quickly. So I used to think people wouldn't read this newspaper, this tabloid trash, when I was young. And honestly, and only until like 2 years ago, I found out that actually, the Sun is the most widely read paper in the UK.
Wow.
The most widely
I thought it was a daily
the Daily Mail online, and that's saying making the same point. Another tabloid trashy paper. Okay, online it has, because the Sun actually doesn't have much of an online presence. Okay, but its paper is the most widely read.
Right.
And Daily Mail online is more popular than the Sun. And that's, to me, the Sun and the Daily Mail are kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, they are like the twin brothers, or from the same family.
Yeah.
And really, that's saying a lot about British people in the UK. I was shocked to hear that this is how popular they are. We're talking about millions and millions of copies being sold out there, and all you ever see, I mean, we know all about the Sun. I mean, that's all about promoting naked women. That's the main way it attracts people.
Sure.
To its paper.
So now you know what kind of
people are reading that. They really should be ashamed of themselves. And and it's actually shown in the Daily Mail. For goodness sakes, I mean, you just go onto their homepage. All you find being promoted as news is which celebrity is having a divorce, which celebrity is having an affair, which celebrity is having an abortion, which celebrity is undergoing surgery for implant this and implant that. That's really basically all they ever
or the world is ending for a particular reason.
Or that Muslims are coming and be careful, they're going to bomb us to pieces. That's the only other.
The commies are coming,
news.
the Muslims are coming. I don't know.
That's
Something's
it.
going to kill someone.
The Muslims are coming. The Muslims are coming.
Yeah.
So that's basically all you ever read in the Sun and in the Daily Mail. So I was just shocked to see that these papers are that popular. They are the two most popular papers in the country. Okay, actually, Daily Mail spans across countries because it's online. It's the most widely read, quote unquote, news outlet online across the globe, as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong, listeners. You guys know better. But my point is, can you imagine how many people are getting that message now from the Sun front page? 1 in 5 Brit Muslims sympathize with jihadis, okay, or have sympathy for jihadis, or whatever they said. So that's gonna have a huge impact. That message, gonna be black and white, ingrained. And this is not the only time they've done this. This is repeatedly done. Ordinary British readers are having this bombarded in their face, okay, on a daily or weekly basis. I don't know how often they print the Sun, okay. I think it's daily, isn't it, or whatever?
Yeah, daily.
So can you imagine that not having any impact on people who didn't really speak with their, let's say, Arab neighbors or their Asian neighbors or their African neighbors or their white revert Muslim neighbors? These people who are ignorant of the religion, we can't blame them too much, okay? I can't say I know everything about Judaism for that matter, but if there are some people who have certain reservations, prejudices already, these types of headlines is really going to fire them up and make them more Islamophobic. It's going to add to further crimes of hate and Islamophobia against Muslims, and that's really what's worrying me.
If it wasn't so serious, I would be laughing at that particular headline. But the point is, it's the same point that we've been making in the beginning of the show with the Channel 4 program, that there is, it's just like it's like an open season on Muslims, and regardless if they're doing good or whatever it is, or bad, whatever it may be, everyone's demonized. All the Muslims are demonized in a particular way, and it is. And I'm not, I don't have proof as such here, but it will incite some idiot or some idiots out there to actually do some harm, physical harm on Muslims, and in particularly, I would say again, sisters, because even in the front page, if I remember correctly, there was a picture of a Muslim woman in a niqab, if I remember correctly. I don't remember exactly if it was or not, but I remember at the bottom of the paper there was a Muslim woman in a niqab. So what do you think these idiots are going to see? They're going to associate straight away
that face, that picture with the headline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now my point is that
and that's done on purpose. They get taught these things when they take their journalism classes, that this is how you do it. This is how you send subliminal messages to your reader and your audience.
So to an average Muslim who is looking at this newspaper and looking at these these programs and looking at other sensational headlines here, what are they meant to think? They're thinking they're under attack. They're going to think they're under attack, and then they see all these violence are happening on the transports, like on the bus and on the train and all of that kind of stuff.
And it's going to further exacerbate the problem. That's going to lead to further young men being further angry. It's going to polarize the communities even more.
It's not about young men. It's going to polarize everybody, the whole community.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's only going to create that division and further push away Muslims away from
mainstream society into the peripheries.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say that the people that actually carried out this survey, then they came with this result, are a organization called Survation. Okay, this group that carried out the poll in the first place, the survey, they themselves are now distancing themselves from the Sun. Let me quickly read from their own text here what they said. And it's really to do with the wording. There's a little bit of technicality here. The wording of the question on sympathy with young Muslims who leave the UK to join fighters in Syria was not chosen by the Sun newspaper, but was chosen by Salvation in order to be completely comparable with previous work we have done, both among Muslims and non-Muslims, and therefore enable meaningful and proper comparisons to be drawn. However, there is a distinction between the work we do and how clients choose to present this work, i.e. the Sun. Salvation do not support or endorse the way in which this poll's findings have been interpreted. Neither the headline nor the body text of articles published were discussed with or approved by Salvation prior to publication. Okay? So, there's more, but I think that says it all. It says here, Salvation do not support or endorse the way in which this poll's findings have been interpreted. Neither the headline nor the body of text of articles published were discussed with or approved by Salvation prior to publication. So here you can see Salvation, the guys who actually held the poll in the first place, are now obviously distancing themselves from the Sun, because it's quite clear that campaigning for your community works, and that campaign has made it clear to a very wide array of people that the Sun is like a toxic newspaper. And that those who are working closely with the Sun should distance themselves. And Salvation, the guy, this is really coming. It's quite ironic.
Coming from the source, yeah.
It's coming from the source. It's quite ironic that those guys are saying, we didn't say it that way. That's not exactly what our survey even says. The way in which the title and the text actually, interpreted our poll. With regards to the word sympathy, a lot of people have said this word sympathy can, in some people's minds, be interpreted as support for jihadists. It doesn't necessarily, sympathy is not a term that refers to support. Sympathy may mean they understand, they even feel pity, sorry for the guys who have gone out there to fight in Syria. It could mean a number of things. But unfortunately, the way it's been presented in the headline is as though that 1 in 5 British Muslims support ISIS. Basically, that's what the headline was hiding in the words that they used. Right. And a lot of people have taken issue with that wording. Okay, so that's that agenda. I wanted to add, because this is very similar to the previous agenda that we had, I wanted to say that it's this kind of thing that leads to hatred against communities. Absolutely. We've mentioned that a few times, but let's look at a few examples, and let's look at some contrasting scenarios as well. Another example is the British, for example. Let's forget the British and the Irish example. Let's go to, let's say, the Bosnians, the Serbs and the Albanian Muslims, living in Bosnia. It was well known and widely reported that Bosnian Muslims were so assimilated and far from their own religious practices.
With the Serbs.
They were basically akin to the Serb. They were like for like, copies of the Serb Bosnians. They even openly stated that we used to drink with the Serbs. We used to go to their pubs. This is talking about, there's no such thing as a British Muslim doing something like this even today. But the Serb Muslims, or the Bosnian Muslims, they were that similar to the non-Muslims of Bosnia, the Serbs. And they said we were so close to them that we were marrying Serbian women, Serb men were marrying Muslim women. We didn't care. It was like nothing. We were all the same. And we were close neighbors. Except overnight, suddenly, of course it was a hyperbolic statement. They said overnight, our own neighbors were, turned on us, coming over the, garden fences, literally, to hack our heads off our shoulders, clean off our shoulders, literally. They were ready to decapitate us, and there were horror stories coming out of what was happening to Muslim women in Bosnia, how pregnant women were being mutilated, and what was happening to their fetuses. And these were stories that were true stories that made men like Abu Hamza cry in the US court recently. I read the story, and he was actually in Bosnia at the time, and he was on trial, and he was narrating his experiences during the Bosnian resistance against the Serb onslaught. And he was narrating the stories of the victims, and he was weeping in court in America. This is the guy who they were putting forward as a really let's say a very tough character. But the kind of stories and the things that were happening in Bosnia were bringing these kinds of men to tears. which was the reason why they went over there, I'm assuming, in the first place, right? The point being, again, what happened overnight for your own neighbor who you used to be sharing, drinks and buying one another drinks over, after work? What happened? What was it that turned these men? And I'll tell you what, it was widely reported that suddenly it was certain leaders in the community, certain politicians, certain church journalists and people were promoting the idea that Muslims are bad, Muslims are this, Muslims are alien.
They said it only took few songs and few articles and
exactly.
and some of the the politicians come up and say
to inflame some of those emotions, and a couple of speeches,
yeah.
And that's it. A couple of anti-Islamic, anti-Muslim speeches, and that's all it took for the Serb people to go slaughter and genocide, ethnically cleanse Muslims in Europe. Okay, and we know about the
only
Muslim
20
Holocaust,
years ago or
which
so.
is Srebrenica,
Yeah.
and Shatila. We know about all these things happening. How many millions? It was just unbelievable. The number of people that were being killed, and nobody really remembers them.
They're still finding mass graves up until today.
Exactly. Now let me. So I hope I've made that point clearly. That this is what it takes. These kinds of stories is all it takes for for you to start looking at genocide down the pipeline. Okay, you may think I'm literally, what's the word? I'm fear-mongering. I'm not saying that this is exactly where we are already.
No, but you just have to look at history. Like
you just learn lessons from history.
You just said something 20 years ago, and obviously we can look at the last 100 years.
Yeah, if you ask those Albanians, they that's what they were exactly expressing. Those Bosnians, they were. That's exactly the disbelief they were expressing. They said, if you told us just before the attacks began, we would never have believed you that this is what our neighbors and our colleagues were capable of. But that's all it took: a couple of emotive songs, few poems, and a couple of speeches to rouse our anger and our neighbors' hatred, and that was it. They were literally slaughtering us. And there are many documentaries on this. So I hope I've made that point clear, that this is exactly the culture that the British politicians, the establishment, the government, and their mouthpieces, the media, are currently following. So to contrast this, to again further make this point, I know we've run out of time, we've gone over time as usual. To contrast this, why do you think there are not attacks against priests and other Christians for all the acts of pedophilia that we know is happening? It's almost endemic in the church establishment.
It seems that though.
Sorry, let me just again rephrase that question. We are saying this is happening to the Muslim community, okay, for a particular reason. Why is it not happening to the Christians? Muslims are being associated with terrorism. Why are Christians not being associated with pedophilia?
Because it's not out there in the media. No
Exactly.
one's speaking about it.
That's it. That's really all it is. When the story breaks in the news, nobody says Christian pedophile grooming gang. Nobody says Christian grooming gang. Nobody said Christianic, pedophilia. But when it comes to things like extremism or terrorism, Islamic extremism, they say Muslim extremists, Muslim terrorists. You see, they what's the word I'm looking for? For want of a better word, they preclude the crime by adding the word Islam, Islamic, Islamist, Muslim in there, so that people automatically associate this crime to Islam and Muslims.
Open season, like I said
and
before.
That's exactly what happened. That is why the churches aren't being burnt down. Mosques are. But pedophilia is equally, even more so, I would say, more hated crime than killing innocent civilians with guns and bombs. I mean, there isn't really a kind of league table when it comes to crimes, but I'm just saying, I know people who are equally repulsed by the idea of raping little children, okay? Equally repulsed by the idea of killing innocent civilians, for example, right? So my point is, how come the churches ain't burning? How come the priests aren't being nailed to the wall, crucified, as it were? Why not? How come Christian women aren't being attacked? Because of the fact, as you said, Mr. Mugabe, that the papers are not making that connection. And rightly so, because it's not a Christian thing to abuse children. It's not in Christianity that you abuse children.
It's criminals.
It's criminals that are doing this, and they don't have to be Christian because, in fact, huge
Why is it
pedophile
criminal?
rings.
Because it's a crime. The
That's
same
right.
thing with all the rest of the stuff. If you want to call it that, if there was a so-called Muslim who is a pedophile, it's a crime. Call it a crime.
That's right.
Why are you associating Muslims?
Don't make it Asian grooming gang.
Yeah.
Don't make it Muslim grooming gangs. Okay. And that's really the problem here. This is why I'm saying the reporting in this country is institutionally Islamophobic, because from the top level, every single paper is writing about terrorism in this way, killing of innocent civilians in this way. In fact, terrorism has become the sole monopoly and copyright of Muslims, if you were to believe these papers. And not just the papers, it is actually originating from establishment, Whitehall, Parliament itself, because this is the same rhetoric that is being put out from the top right there.
It's been endorsed by all ranks in the government.
That's right. So
or there would have been
why
people coming up right now and speaking out against it.
Exactly. And they're not taking responsibility. We're not hearing things like, the Paris attacks, we condemn it, but we will take serious and swift action against anybody who thinks it's okay to now take vengeance or retribution from ordinary, civilized,
So
good
I'm calling
Muslims.
out to you, Mr. Cameron, condemn the Islamophobia.
That's right.
Condemn it.
Why Cameron?
Why is it
Let's
that
start
Muslims
with
have
our Muslim organizations. Do I need to mention their names? Let our big mosques and our big umbrella organizations who are saying that they represent the Muslim community. And you know what it is? This is what's going to drive the wedge between the old generation who are who have already dwindled into irrelevance. Okay? When you speak to the young men and women of this community, just read the social media messages. People are getting fed up of the fact that these organizations and these mosques are not really represented. So if you want to be in touch with your youth, okay, who are the future, the ones who will replace you, then I say to our leaders who are representing us on our behalf, okay, that you need to really be in touch with the sentiments of your own community. That's really my advice to everybody, inshallah. So that was my point. I was going to add another example to contrast. Why is it that only Muslim? Because of the fact, I was going to say that, why when a crime takes place, a gun crime or a drug crime or something like that, people ain't going around killing black people. You understand? Just because the drug dealer happened to be a black guy, or just because the shooter on that day of the crime happened to be an Afro-Caribbean guy. Okay? People have moved away from, they used to do that, black on black crimes. It was like one of those, this is the way the media used to, and in America, they still report it in that way. But people have understood now that this kind of reporting is racist. It's plain, simple racism. To do so would lead people to think this crime is only a black problem, okay? And that blacks have a responsibility to deal with drugs in society and gun problems, gun crime in society at large. So, and this is why nobody's going around killing black people, apart from the police, that is. Nobody else is killing black people. No ordinary person is going vigilante on them, because they've realized nobody's actually telling them that this crime is a black problem. This shooting that happened in South London or West London, that's because, this is a black shooting, black violence. Nobody's talking about it in that way. And that's correct. That's how it should be. And that's what we are asking as Muslims, that the reporting needs to change in this country if they are to take Islamophobic incidences of violence and assault, okay, and attacks seriously in this country. What's the last agenda?
I was going to mention the Pray for Paris, but I think we can just touch upon that maybe and then move on.
We've got to finish straight after. There's nothing to move on to.
Move on meaning...
Yeah, wrap it up.
Sure. Yeah. So,
were you praying for Paris? Is really my main.
What's wrong with praying 2 rakah, bro?
Are you praying? Did you pray for Paris? That's my question.
I'm praying for the world.
You prayed 2 rakahs for Paris. Did I hear that correctly?
I'm praying 2 rakah for the world, bro.
Did I do a Sun headline move there?
I think from the source, you have to hear it from the source. I didn't say I was praying for Paris per se. I was praying for all the. I was praying for peace.
You were praying for peace.
I was praying for peace.
That's a very diplomatic answer. So you didn't pray for Paris.
I'm praying for peace.
You pray for peace. And did you stand 2 minutes in silence?
Is it 2 minutes? I thought it was 1 minute.
Out of respect for those that were killed in Paris.
Was it 1 minute or 2 minutes?
I think whatever the minutes.
You
were.
you stood actually for 2 minutes.
There were some Muslims who were standing for a long time, just so
2 minutes.
that they don't, just so that they're accepted in society.
I think there's a lot of people that stood for a minute, but I would say they stood for all the rest of the world, really, what's happening around the world in terms of the innocents that are passed away in the world or murdered in the world.
Well, I'll tell you straight, straight off the cuff here that I object to standing in silence or praying for anybody exclusively or in a discriminatory kind of way, because I don't endorse discrimination. I don't support standing up or praying for only one category of people, because I think that only reinforces racism and other forms of hierarchy and supremacy. So for that reason, I have a policy of not condemning anything until condemnation can be done across the board fairly and equally, without any discrimination, without any Islamophobia, without any racism. As long as we've been condemning aggression, unruly aggression around the world since I can remember. Yeah, that's right.
Why is it that we have to now suddenly stand up and condemn one side of it?
My policy is, obviously I have my own policy book, if you guys have checked. My policy is...
the one that's full with all these...
you'll have to bring a crane. You'll have to bring a crane to get it moved. But my policy is simple, that if I didn't have anything to do with the attacks or any crime, I ain't going to go out condemning it. Simple as that. The law is the law. Everybody knows what's legal, what's illegal, whether life is sacred or not. Everybody knows that. Why do I got to come out and prove that I'm not a terrorist? That's basically what the question is asking when they say, do you condemn or have you condemned? That's really what they want to say. And it presumes that if you don't condemn, then therefore you must be a terrorist as well, or a terrorist sympathizer. And for that very assumption, I refuse again to pass any comment or condemnation.
So those who fall into this pitfall, guys, you need to really rethink your stance on this and really
change your policy on it. Come read my policies.
I don't think you should go read Mr. Good Luck Django Jonathan's policy, but nevertheless, at least, you know what? Just get out your bubble, think outside the box.
Stop apologizing for things that you didn't have anything to do with.
If
you did have something to do with it, by the way, then maybe you would probably you must apologize. Okay, apologies not accepted.
Actually, I would say go to the nearest police station, hand yourself over
definitely, right now. Okay, so that's really what we would say. That why you gotta go apologizing and condemning and doing it. My view is, we should be condemning things on our own terms. We shouldn't be putting out political statements of condemnation at the behest of the government, okay, or the media, or the very same government and media who couldn't give a damn about their Muslim community and the minorities that live in the UK, okay, who are actually playing a major role in this, in increasing the Islamophobia in the community. So for that reason, and the number of reasons that we mentioned here tonight, we have a policy of not putting out any statement of condemnation, okay, until we have a level playing field, until we can stand in moments of silence for the people of Palestine, until there is equality and fairness for the people of Syria. And if we were to stand in silence for those people, then we'd be silent for a very, very long time. I can assure you that. Okay, for the people of Iraq, who were also, the British government up till today has not condemned the illegal invasion of the nation of Iraq, and then the subsequent destabilization of the entire region, and therefore the creation of ISIS. Yeah. Okay, for which they are now, saber rattling and all this kind of rhetoric and emotionalism for their fellow Frenchmen. They hate the French. What is this nonsense? I'm sickened to my stomach, really, to hear the English people pretending that they give a damn about the French people. Okay, they don't care.
With that, I think we made some good points on that.
So I condemn those who are condemning acts of or crimes.
Why are you condemning for?
I said I was not going to condemn.
Yeah, you condemning now, bro?
You didn't understand my message.
Some next policy. You gonna rewrite your policies.
Who's Django of the week? Who's Django of the week? We are.
I only got one.
Literally 1 hour into the show.
Hang on. Our guest. Have you got any comments on that?
Any nominations?
I think he's saying what? What are you saying? The sun Okay, the sun. He's nodding to the sun. I think, actually, to be honest, this week's Django has to be the sun. How stupid
he was
can
doing
you
a
get?
give us a clue charade type of act with the sun, the sun, and the. Well, anyway, we understood. No problem.
Don't get him angry, man. Don't get him angry. What are we doing? Don't get him angry.
Yeah, so just
He's
these military
he's
guys
joking.
always so agitated.
Don't pull the trigger. He's joking. Yes. So no, there is only one Django of the week. Everyone agrees.
Yeah.
It has to be the stupid son.
Right. I mean, that the son is what is the son of Rupert Murdoch, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Rupert's got to take this one.
Rupert's
because
taking quite a few.
finally, I mean, the buck stops at the top, and that's where Rupert's sitting. And I think Rupert Murdoch, you, my son, excuse the pun, you are Django of the week. Okay, so Django of the week for tonight's program, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, goes to the right dishonourable Rupert Murdoch.
With that, we'll end the show here.
Definitely tune in next week, inshallah, same time, 8:15 every Tuesday nights for your dose of the Security Council. We'll see you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In a world overrun by neocon warmongers, and with the mass media in the pockets of the cabal elite, there remains one bastion of truth amidst the confusion. One beacon of light shining through the murky fog of spin and Islamophobic propaganda. That's right. It's the NP Radio Security Council, the final frontier in the fight for freedom and fairness. I give you the Security Council.
أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد أبدا لن نحيد عن خطى الإيمان دربنا درب قويم دربنا درب قويم بالهدى القرآني سائر في طريق الحق
Middle Path Radio, your number one online Islamic talk station.